Welcome to everybody today on this beautiful September morning. Very reminiscent of 23 years ago when we were all going about our daily living activities and only to have everything come to a screeching halt. Today our Middlesex students are going to sing for us. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Well done. Thank you, girls. There are no boys there, are there? Oh, okay. Okay. I would like to introduce our first selectman, Mr. John Segrotsky. He would like to speak to people.
Actually, I'm just going to, sorry, Nancy, I'm just going to take one quick second to say good morning. I'm Sue Ann Shore, Chairman of the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission. This is Nancy Natal. And Natal, I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's right.
Good. I'm always worried I'm going to mispronounce it. She's going to be our MC today for the ceremony. But before we as we're getting started, first of all, thank you to the Middlesex Middle School students, and welcome to everyone here. I believe we have several elected officials, our selectman, our first selectman, Tracy Mara, representative. Forgive me if I've missed seeing anyone in the crowd. We also have members of our Norotan Heights Fire Department, Darien Fire Department, and Norotan Fire Department, as well as the Post 53 and our police officers. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. And with that, I will hand it back over to Nancy.
Mr. Zagrodsky, would you come up and speak? Thank you.
Good morning. On September 12th, 2001, the ministers of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, they met in emergency session. And so the purpose of the emergency session was for them to decide what to do about the attacks that had taken place the previous day. So when they met in that decision, the decision that they made was to invoke what's called Article 5. So Article 5 is part of the treaty that was signed in 1949 that established the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So what that article says is that if there's an attack on one member state, it's an attack on all member states. Okay, so when they did this, and by the way, this is the only time in the 75-year history of NATO that Article 5 has been invoked. When they did that, they signed up all the member states for all the risks and uncertainty and potential costs to come to America's defense after 9/11, which was a big deal because the day after the attacks, we didn't know just how extensive that risk was. And yet, those member states, they decided to sign up for that risk anyway. The next day, on September 13th, Queen Elizabeth, for the changing of the guard ceremony at Buckingham Palace, she ordered the Coldstream Guard to play America's national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. When she did that, she broke with a protocol that had been in place for that ceremony, unchanged for more than 600 years. Okay, and it's particularly ironic that she did that because when Francis Scott Key wrote the lyrics to the Star Spangled Banner, it was part of a poem, he wrote them when he was witnessing the destruction of Fort McHenry in Maryland during the Battle of the War of 1812, which was this nasty conflict between England and the United States during which they burned the White House. And of course, the Queen knew all of this, right? And she did it anyway. 9/11 changed the way people act and think about a lot of things. And some of the statistics are pretty interesting. We know a lot of those stories, but I'm going to give you a few statistics to just ponder. In the 12 months after the 9/11 attacks, more than 182,000 people signed up for active duty in the United States military, and another 80,000 signed up for reserve duty. That's the highest number of recruits that we've had in any year since 9/11. More than 250 charitable organizations were formed after 9/11, and collectively, over the 2 years after that, they raised in today's dollars more than $1.3 billion to help victims of 9/11. By October of 2001, right, in the city of New York, they threw away or discarded 200,000 units of blood. Why? Because blood doesn't last forever, and there were so many blood donations that they could not use it all. So right here at home, we had our own responses to 9/11. So I called, had a great conversation on Sunday this past weekend with Bob Harrell. So if any of you remember Bob was the first selectman on 9/11. He and his wife Betty are retired down in Florida. He extends his greetings to everyone, by the way, and wishes that he could be here today. But I had a great conversation, and I asked him, what was it like on that day? And he said he'd actually been at a funeral that morning with Charlie Savarine, and he said that when he got word that morning, he went over to the police department, and he spent most of the day at the police department trying to figure out what to do. And he said, officially, we really were not certain about what we could do, and we just sat there waiting for new information. But people figured out what to do by themselves. He talked about the teams of people that self-formed to go out to the train stations and welcome the people coming back from New York. He talked about members of the fire department who came up and said, well, we would like to redeploy down to Westchester County to help them because all their firefighters had rushed off to New York City to help with that. The great thing that he said, though, was that, that day we saw the best of America. And he said with confidence, he says, if we ever have another crisis, we will see the best of America again. So why am I telling you all this? The reason I'm telling you this is I kind of want to challenge this last point that Bob made when he said that if we have another crisis, we will see the best of America again. Some of you may actually be feeling kind of down about America right now, right? And if you are, I understand. It's easy to do. We're in a time of great uncertainty. We've got shooting wars abroad. We've got culture wars at home. We've got a bitter presidential election in progress, which was not made better by last night's debate. And all of that you read about all of that, all of it is made worse by this. Social media and all the targeted messaging that you get on this phone, and when you read about that every day, you feel worse about everything that you heard. The problem is that 9/11 actually showed us that there is an endless reservoir of good in America. And one of the things that we need to learn how to do and to accept is that you can tap that good, no crisis required. So America's motto is a Latin phrase, and it's e pluribus unum. That phrase, translated, means out of many, one. And so when we talk about e pluribus unum, quite frequently, what we're focusing on is the one. We're focusing on this ideal or this notion of national unity. Well, I've looked around recently, we haven't been doing a very good job at that. And so I would submit to you that maybe what we should be doing is thinking about the many in that phrase, the many individuals who can make different decisions about how they feel, how they act, and how they think about America. The question is how to do that? Well, Ronald Reagan was famous for saying that there are no easy solutions, but there are simple solutions. So maybe one simple solution is this. Take that phone once a day and just say, for a few minutes, I'm going to take this phone and I'm going to put this phone in my pocket and I'm not going to look at it. And instead, I'm going to maybe think about how I could rededicate myself to some of the things that we saw that were the good in America during 9/11. What were those things? Charity, outreach to others, giving, or just even acts of kindness. So my dad, who lives with my mother down in Texas, 85 years old, he is still telling me what to do, by the way. He told me yesterday what to do. He always says that happiness is a choice. And I think he's right about that. I further believe that how you think about America, how you feel about America as a country, I think that's a choice too. And how do you make that choice? The spirit of 9/11 is a good place to start. So may God hold and keep the innocent souls who died on 9/11, and may God continue to bless that magnificent experiment we call the United States of America.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it's 23 years later, and we stand here, unable to forget the memories from that day, a beautiful September Tuesday, much like today, that turned into a nightmare of dust, destruction, disbelief, and inhumanity. We remember all that was lost that morning, the people we loved, the people we worked with, those we didn't know, and yet, as Americans, we endured the pain of this callous assault on our country, our way of life, recognizing that evil does live among us but does not own us. 9/11 brings other pain, recalling 1941 Pearl Harbor, November 63 in JFK, May 70 Kent State, August 74th Nixon's resignation, and more recently Afghanistan, Israel, and Ukraine. September 11th reminds us to look back and remember, but not to cede control to the enemy wherever they come from. 412 of the 2,977 who died were firefighters, police officers, and EMS workers who entered the shattered buildings with their only goal being to save lives. Many gave their own lives in that pursuit. We must also remember that citizens of 77 countries other than ours were among those that died that day. There was no color, no religion, no race, no gender. We were all united, horrified, terrified, but unified in our disbelief and sorrow. We carry the strength of those we cherish who are gone, passing it on to our children who will regrettably live through their own tragedies. We will teach them to be wise, to be kind, to be intelligent, to be strong, to be resilient. And when we hear our national anthem, we can be proud. We survived, but we still remember. And today we honor those not here, gone before their time. Finally, I'd like to ask all to participate in a minute of silence marking the time of the first attack. Thank you. Once again, I want to thank Josh Doying, the teenager who conceived, funded, and built our beautiful monument that stands behind me. And I would like to once again thank our wonderful singers for their national anthem, which was really well done. And I would like to have you place your rose or flag in respect and honor for those we are here to commemorate and remember. If you could leave them here, put them in front of the monument.
So those of you that have roses or flags, if you'd like to come up and place them, that would be great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's my last line. Okay, thank you all for attending today. May we always remember the good that is our country and never forget. Thank you.